Today I want to speak about the importance of a strong physicality, which is by proxy and also the shadow slash reflection of the mental body, the mental state, which then furthermore goes into the spiritual. And one thing I want to bring up again is that form follows function. Form follows function. And everybody want to be gangster till it's time to do gangster ass shit. True resonance. There's a lot of people in my life right now with whom I am having to express the need for physical training to occur in some capacity. But the ones that really I feel have the most bang for the buck are the ones like hiking. Because it is so, from a spiritual standpoint, a physiological standpoint, and also mental standpoint, it has just the right cocktail of ingredients to be a highly effective and scalable stress inoculation tool. Which again, as it is important to be able to do that as a warrior, especially when you've got hundreds of pounds of gear on your back, and then might have to carry someone else as well, like the physical strength, the endurance, the stamina, it's life or death. The stakes are high, and so too are the standards and requirements to survive, let alone excel in that atmosphere. And this applies very well in the spiritual and astral, and from my own lens as a shaman. I give a lot of credit to my relatively fast, growth and evolution with this. And again, that's not me just blowing myself up. I get it quite frequently of where people are astounded that I've only been doing this for a few years. Like, it's not something that I've spent even a decade on. And I attribute that rapid evolution through shamanism because it's the only thing also that really reminds me of the same level of stakes as the military. And that's also part of the reason why I love shamanism, is because it is like the closest thing that has come. And honestly, like, not in the physical component. I mean, there's life and death with it. I mean, like, you sit with high enough doses of Kambo like I have, 22 dots, you really, it's warrior medicine for a reason. You are facing death in many ways. But I digress. The ability to endure suffering, especially when it is in very prolonged time periods, high levels of intensity with spikes, and then also with the deprivation of comforts. There's a lot of, again, the intensity in suffering is almost inescapable, I feel like. When you're carrying a heavy load on your back, the entire experience of hiking at 20K, say with 150 pounds on your back, the first part that might start hurting might be your shoulders, and then you adjust your pack and you get things situated, you adjust your stride a little bit to account for, all the dynamics. You might tighten something or loosen something as you're rucking, as you've got a weapon in your hand, as you're, pulling security, watching out for hand arm signals, being vigilant, right? Multitasking, doing all this while, again, under heavy physical load, most likely having hygiene for a hot minute, dehydrated, living off of MREs, which is terrible for you. Keeps you alive, but it's terrible for you. And again, like just the hiking itself is just monotonous, but the pain shifts. Then it'll move to your hips, and you adjust your hip straps, and then adjust your shoulder straps some more, and then you know, then you start getting a hot spot on one of your feet, blisters, or you need to adjust your gait somewhat, and then you can feel blisters forming, and get hot spots, and this compounding stress and suck factor that doesn't get any better with time, right? And there is no finish line. There is no, well, you clock out at 9 to 5. Like, no, like, situation and mission always dictate. And just as that's true in the military and the Marine Corps, that also very strongly applies to shamanism. Because once you're aware of the activities and forces and shenanigans at play, the spiritual warfare, working is dictated by the situation. Again, obviously the best way to win a fight is never to have one, but sometimes confrontation is unavoidable in some capacity. Again, just as we cannot escape the astrological energies of various planets for good or for bad. So too in this, planet, people are going to bump shoulders. It's going to happen. Especially as different egregores, entities, thought forms, scripts gain in mass. Anyways, the ability also, I feel this very intuitively. I don't have any proof of this, so keep that in mind. But my experience with Bufo and psychedelics, but especially Bufo, has been that, and I've also observed this not just in myself but in others, the more muscular males are able to ground the energy more of the medicine, and thus are able to walk in the medicine more easily. That's my personal observation, and I could be biased. I fully recognize that, but again, it makes sense too from a very even like yin yang perspective. Because if you're more grounded in your physicality, you're gonna have the capacity, like in more iron, more silica, more matter. You're gonna be able to take in more pattern. Again, like just how you have more storage space on a hard drive. Plant medicines and all of consciousness isn't just occurring at this mental level, it's also occurring within every cell of your body as well. So it makes sense to me. Like, I remember I realized this when I was a teenager, when I started learning about exercise science and kinesiology to some degree, and that, when you get more muscular, you have to create more networks, more, mind-muscle connections, neurogenesis, and then also to get just increased awareness, right? Which comes with that. Who has more awareness of their shoulder down? A bodybuilder or a desk jockey? Probably the bodybuilder. The bodybuilder has spent a lot of time, working the ability to just, activate, agonist and antagonist muscles simultaneously, right? When they're posing, while they're moving, their posture. They're very aware of their bodies in many capacities. Again, some would view it as toxic or unhealthy, but I mean, they're masters at their craft. I mean, you have to never be satisfied in that capacity. But anyways, so it makes sense to me that also too, from just that neurological and nervous system component, that someone who's more buff is going to be able to interact with psychedelics, working on the nervous system. They're going to have a better ability to tolerate them in higher dosages, frequencies, and circumstances. Because going back to the stress capacity again, right? Who's doing Navy SEALs? Who's doing Delta Force? Who's doing MARSOC? Who hits heavier punches? Who receives heavier punches? You know, is it males or females? The force and power dynamics are different. So with that being said, it makes sense that more muscular males would have both a mindset of ability. Again, what mindset does it take to sculpt a physique? It generally takes a disciplined one. There is, diet, actually training and pushing past pain, pushing past thresholds, whether it be intensity, weight, volume, etc., leverages, poundages. So it makes sense that, again, there would be that same factor with the psychedelic remnants. Because, again, I can see very clearly in my own journey of times where I was more feminine, or I just wasn't in my freaking element as much, of where the medicine would kick my fucking ass. Right? Which, again, it comes down to, like, it's like, do you want to be on top, or do you want to be on bottom? Me personally, I'd rather be on top. So maintaining that ascension is critical. I think that sums up everything I wanted to say today.